health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well, and work well. It doesn't mean that people don't get depressed or anxious or go through hard things in their life. It just means that they're able to sort of come back to center more easily than people that have mental health illnesses or mental health challenges. But unfortunately, mental health issues and illnesses are very common in the US, I guess especially now. It's estimated that more than 1 in 5 US adults live with a mental illness. So that's over 59 million people, or about 23% of the adult US population. And when people are predisposed to mental health challenges or illnesses, a lot of times it's because of factors that are beyond their control. So for example, biology. Some people have a family history or genetic history of mental illness. Or sometimes people, as babies, were exposed to alcohol or drugs in the womb, and that's going to predispose them to mental illnesses. Psychology. People could be exposed to an incredibly traumatic event that causes them post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which causes depression and anxiety. Or there's social and environmental influences that are beyond our control. Like, we can't control the household in which we're raised in, and some people are unfortunately raised in abusive households, and then that will predispose them to mental health issues and challenges. What I'm going to talk about a little bit later, I'm going to get to it, is I'm going to talk about 3 risk factors that are intimately connected to mental health that are within our control through nutrition. I'm going to get there. First, we're just going to cover a couple of the basics, which is that these are the most common forms of mental illness in the US. Anxiety is by far the top, and then followed by major depression, PTSD, bipolar, and then on from there. There are 4 things that the research says are very protective for people that either have mental health illnesses. If you have a mental health illness, this will help you cope better, or it'll help you prevent yourself from developing mental health issues and challenges. So the 4 things are strong community and family support, consistent good quality sleep at night, exercising regularly, and access to quality health care. Now, I would say that the research on nutrition and dietary supplements in relationship to mental health is pretty much exploding in the last few years. And what the research is finding is that an anti-inflammatory diet and certain nutritional supplements can actually prevent or treat depression and anxiety. And there's some dietary supplements that can actually reduce the side effects of antidepressants. And there's some dietary supplements that can be used to treat some of the causes of mental health disorders. So before we get to that, let's just do a brief overview of some of the neurotransmitters that are involved in mental health issues. So neurotransmitters are chemicals in the brain that carry signals from one nerve cell or neuron to another. Scientists have discovered over 100 neurotransmitters and 86 billion neurons. And neurotransmitters regulate energy and appetite and mood and attention and stress response. The 4 key neurotransmitters that are discussed a lot in the literature having to do with mental health are serotonin, which has to do with happiness and a happy, calm, focused feeling. Dopamine, which is what we talked about earlier with upbeat, reward and motivation. Norepinephrine, which has to do with cognitive function and stress responses. And GABA, which produces a calming effect that helps us deal with anxiety and stress. Now, the most commonly prescribed medications are SSRIs and SRNIs. SSRIs are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Basically, the way that they work is they help cells in the brain not absorb serotonin. They prevent cells that usually absorb their serotonin from not absorbing it, and so it creates more serotonin in the brain. And the SRNIs work in the same way, except they target both serotonin and norepinephrine. But here's the thing. This serotonin theory of depression has been widely debunked. It's not considered to be a valid theory anymore. In fact, this is, I'm going to just quote this, there's a review article on the subject that was just published, I think, in the last year, and this was what the researcher says. The main areas of serotonin research provide no consistent evidence of there being an association between serotonin and depression. and no support for the hypothesis that depression is caused by lowered serotonin activity or concentrations. Which explains why antidepressants don't work for most people. So this chart here kind of is a good way to show you why antidepressants don't work for most people. So when people take a placebo, right, placebos are designed to not have any effect at all. When people take a placebo, about 20 to 40 people in 100 will experience reduced symptoms of their depression or anxiety within 6 to 8 weeks. If people take an antidepressant, about 40 to 60 out of 100 people will experience a reduction in their symptoms in about 6 to 8 weeks. So the net result is antidepressants help about 20 out of 100 people that take them. 20 out of 100 people. So that means 1/5 of the people that take antidepressants, that antidepressants will work for. But 4/5 of those people will not have an effect from those antidepressants. And these are commonly prescribed medications. I mean, at least 13% of adult Americans take antidepressant medications, about 34 million adults. I think it's higher than that, actually. And antidepressant prescriptions for young people in the US, ages 12 to 25, have increased by over 66% recently. Antidepressants come with side effects, dry mouth, and nausea, nervousness, insomnia, dizziness, headaches, drowsiness. And our suicide rate has increased recently. Over 49,000 people die by suicide every year, which is about one death every 11 minutes. But even more than that, over 13 million people have seriously thought about suicide. Almost 4 million people have made a plan for suicide. They feel so bad in their bodies from the depression and anxiety. They've made a plan to take their lives. And over 1.5 million people have attempted suicide. So if antidepressants aren't going to work for most people, then what are some things that we can do to help with anxiety and depression and mental health issues? So the 3 risk factors that I'm going to talk about today are intimately associated with mental health challenges and mental illnesses. Gut microbiome dysfunction, the toxic effects of chronic stress on the brain, and blood sugar regulation. So we're going to start with the gut microbiome. And the gut microbiome is a community of healthy microorganisms. They're bacteria and viruses and fungi. They protect us from all sorts of illnesses, including psychiatric illnesses. And there's multiple studies that link gut health to mental health through this thing called the microbiota gut-brain axis, which is a 2-way communication system between the gut and the brain. So it links our emotional and cognitive functions of the brain with our digestive health. If we have more harmful than beneficial gut microbiota, then it increases our risk of anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder, autism spectrum disorder, schizophrenia. So for example, people with mental health issues have dramatically decreased microbiota diversity in their gut. We need a diverse amount of microbiota of those microorganisms in our gut to be healthy. And people with mental health issues have increased harmful gut microbiota. And the latest research is saying that actually we should be targeting the gut microbiome to treat and prevent and manage depression and anxiety. Looking up at the serotonin, we should be targeting the gut microbiome. And the research is also showing that food and supplements can help with depression and anxiety because they increase beneficial gut microbiota and they reduce the harmful gut microbiota. So some of the foods and supplements that work are things like probiotics, like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, consuming fermented dairy products like yogurt and kefir and cultured buttermilk and hard cheeses. Again, probiotic, prebiotics from fruits and vegetables, and also spices that act as prebiotics, like cinnamon and curcumin. Prebiotics feed the healthy gut microorganisms. Now, this chart basically sums up what the research has found. So you have like dietary, you have the input, right? You have the input of the probiotics and the prebiotics. The probiotics that'll help replenish healthy gut bacteria, prebiotics that'll feed healthy gut bacteria. And then what ends up happening is that you get a decrease in the unhealthy gut bacteria and an increase in the healthy gut bacteria. And so then the gut tells the brain, the healthy microorganisms tell the brain, make more GABA, make more serotonin, make more dopamine. And then what the research found is that then that results in a reduction in symptoms of depression, a reduction in symptoms of anxiety, reductions actually in schizophrenia symptoms, and actually reduction in antisocial behavior in some kids that are on the spectrum. So when we're thinking about Neolife supplements that will target the gut microbiome in a meaningful way, that'll provide both the probiotics and the prebiotics, this is your arsenal for the gut microbiome. So glucose balance, I'm going to talk about that twice because I'm going to talk about it in terms of it has a prebiotic effect because of the cinnamon and the turmeric in there, the curcumin, and also I'm going to talk about a little bit later in terms of blood sugar. Our acidophilus plus and our phytodefense. Our phytodefense has carotenoid complex, flavonoid complex, and cruciferous plus. Now, the carotenoids in carotenoid complex act as prebiotics, so they act as food for the healthy gut microbiota. They maintain the right balance of gut microorganisms, and they prevent harmful bacteria from growing. Our flavonoid complex also acts as a prebiotic, and it also strengthens the intestinal barrier function. If we have a leaky gut or a weak intestinal barrier, then we're at risk for developing lots of different chronic illnesses, including psychiatric illnesses. Cruciferous vegetables also act as prebiotics. In fact, studies show that it only takes 14 days of eating cruciferous vegetables to change our microbiome health for the better. Our acidophilus plus has 5 billion live microorganisms. It has as many good bacteria as in 10 servings of yogurt. And every single strain in acidophilus plus has been clinically tested for efficacy, and it has been clinically tested to survive the stomach acid and get released into the gut. And then our glucose balance contains a clinically backed dose of cinnamon. It contains whole turmeric plus bioactive curcumin. And these spices actually act as prebiotics, and they help improve our gut health. So this is your arsenal: phytodefense, acidophilus plus, glucose balance. Of course, you can add betazyme and things like that, but these are the core products that are going to address gut microbiome, which will then help with people's mental health. Now let's talk about mental health and chronic stress. Because no matter what the cause is or our genetic predisposition to mental health challenges or issues, we know from a science point of view that chronic stress makes everything worse. And there's numerous studies that have linked severe stress, the development of major depressive disorder, to suicidal thoughts and behavior. And this is why. So when we undergo chronic stress, our body releases a lot of cortisol. It releases it consistently. And cortisol has a toxic effect on the mitochondria in the brain and the lipids in the brain. We don't normally think about our brain as having lipids, but actually our brain is basically 50% of its dry weight basically is lipids. So our brain has lipids and mitochondria. Our brain needs a ton of energy. So we need our mitochondria to work to provide that energy. But what the toxic effects of cortisol do is they destroy the functionality of both the mitochondria and the lipids. They degrade the mitochondria and the lipids in the brain. And that results in dysfunctional neurotransmitter signaling, which means that it increases our risk for neurodegenerative disorders, and it increases our risk for psychiatric illnesses. So in the literature, these are the nutrients that have been found to protect the brain's mitochondria from chronic stress. I'll get to the lipids in a minute. But these are the supplements that protect the brain's mitochondria. B vitamins protect mitochondrial function. Antioxidants like zinc, selenium, and vitamin C increase the antioxidant status in the brain. Herbs like ginkgo and ginseng and other herbal antioxidants protect the mitochondrial function of the brain by reducing oxidative stress. And zinc actually acts by itself as an antidepressant. And it also helps to improve the efficacy of antidepressants. So this is your arsenal for supplements that protect the brain's mitochondria from chronic stress. We have the antioxidant vitamins in ProVitality. We have Super B that'll help protect mitochondrial function. Our Super B is 8 of the B vitamin family plus inositol and choline, and it's time release, so it's released over several hours. We have our herbal rest and relax and our mind enhancement, both of which supply antioxidant herbs that protect the brain's mitochondria. Our herbal rest and relax also helps the body deal with stress, psychological and physical stress. The only thing is, if somebody's on an antidepressant, you don't want to have them take herbal rest and relax because it contains St. John's wort. And if people take antidepressants and St. John's wort together, then the risk is that they'll develop too much serotonin in the brain. They'll create too much serotonin, which creates something called serotonin syndrome, which can actually, in some cases, be fatal. So not going to take St. John's wort if you're on an antidepressant. If you're not on an antidepressant, then it works really well. The mind enhancement you can take, people can take whether or not they're on an antidepressant. And I'm going to repeat what I said about zinc earlier because it's so important. The human body cannot store zinc, so we need to have a regular intake of zinc from both diet and supplements because zinc protects the brain's mitochondria through its antioxidant activity. And this is what I said earlier that needs to be repeated. Zinc has been found in multiple studies to have antidepressant effects by itself and to help increase the efficacy of antidepressants. Now, the supplement that you want to protect the brain's lipids is our Salmon Oil Plus. Several studies have consistently indicated that low omega-3 consumption increases the risk of depression and other mental health related issues. And studies have found that if people supplement with omega-3 fatty acids, then that actually helps prevent suicidal thoughts and behaviors. In fact, supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids led to a 45% reduction in suicidal thinking and a 30% reduction in depressive symptoms. So omega-3 fatty acids enhance cognitive resilience, and they can be used with other supplements and diet to treat mood disorders. Now, in our omega-3 Salmon Oil Plus is really unique. It's the only product in the marketplace that's standardized to 8 of the most nutritionally important omega-3s. It's sustainably fished in pristine North Atlantic waters. It's ultra pure. It's tested for over 200 contaminants, including mercury, lead, and PCBs. And it's equivalent to the American Heart Association's recommended 2 servings of fish per week. So our omega-3 salmon oil is unique compared to other products in the marketplace. So I'm going to sum up the chronic stress part of this talk with words from the researcher that studied the nutrients we just talked about. For reducing the effects of chronic stress on the brain. Thus, these nutrients could be of considerable utility in either preventing the onset of mood disorders and suicidal behaviors in vulnerable individuals or significantly augmenting and improving the therapeutic effect of available drugs. Furthermore, because these nutrients are well known to be safe and reliable, implementing their use can be an easy way to protect individuals against stress-related psychiatric disorders, including PTSD, depression, and suicide attempts. Latest research. So this is your arsenal for DLH supplements for chronic stress. Now the third risk factor I'm going to talk about is blood sugar, which the research is referring to as the silent time bomb, because high blood sugar is linked to an increased risk of depression. And about 1 in 3 American adults has insulin resistance, which means they have high blood sugar. 1 in 3 adults, high blood sugar. Insulin resistance is a precursor to prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance is a silent time bomb that doubles the risk of serious depression. It's silent because we don't have symptoms. It doubles the risk. Having high blood sugar doubles the risk of serious depression. And if we have poor glycemic control, which means if we have blood sugar that's going up and down all the time because we don't control it very well with our diet or supplements, the symptoms of poor glycemic control have been shown to closely mirror mental health symptoms, such as depression and irritation and anxiety and worry. So if our blood sugar is out of whack, our emotions are out of whack. And there was a study done by Stanford researchers that linked insulin resistance to an increased risk of developing major depressive disorder. Quote from the study: if you're insulin resistant, your risk of developing major depressive disorder is double that of someone who is not insulin resistant, even if you have never been depressed before. Even if you've never been depressed before. If you have high blood sugar and you don't know it, twice as much chance of becoming depressed, even if you've never experienced depression before. 40% of people suffering from mood disorders are insulin resistant. 40% of people suffering from mood disorders are insulin resistant. That's why antidepressants don't work for most people. It's not the root cause. And doctors don't normally, if you go to the doctor and you're like, I'm really depressed, I'm anxious, chances are you're going to get an antidepressant prescription before they check your blood sugar. Doctors are not normally in the habit of checking your blood sugar to see if that's the cause of your symptoms. So these are Neolife supplements to regulate blood sugar. We have Glucose Balance and we have Neolife Shake. Our Glucose Balance manages blood sugar in 3 different ways. It manages glucose uptake, it optimizes insulin sensitivity, it maximizes insulin receptor function, it balances blood sugar. Our Glucose Balance contains a clinical dose of high-quality cinnamon extract combined with whole turmeric and then the bioactive curcumin, alpha-lipoic acid, and chromium. And our Neolife Shake contains high-quality protein. Protein regulates blood sugar, and our Neolife Shake provides high-quality protein. Also, our Neolife Shake contains 5 grams of fiber, which will also help control blood sugar. And our Neolife Shake was shown in a clinical trial to help people lose weight. And if you lose weight, that's also going to help rebalance your blood sugar. Now, these 2 products I consider to be must-haves no matter what no matter what other combination of products anybody is taking. For mental health, vitamin D or vegan D and magnesium or magnesium complex are must-haves. Because both vitamin D and magnesium target all 3 of those risk factors we just talked about. So vitamin D deficiency causes an increase in pathogenic bacteria in the gut microbiome, which then triggers digestive dysfunction and intestinal inflammation. So vitamin D helps with gut health. Vitamin D supplementation has been found to decrease cortisol levels during times of stress. So vitamin D helps with chronic stress. Vitamin D supplementation has been linked to lower risk of developing insulin resistance. So vitamin D helps regulate blood sugar. Magnesium. Magnesium increases the gut microbiome diversity. So magnesium helps with gut health. Stress causes the depletion of magnesium, and supplementing with magnesium decreases cortisol secretion. So magnesium helps with chronic stress. Magnesium regulates blood sugar. And people with magnesium deficiency typically have poorer blood sugar regulation and a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So magnesium helps with blood sugar regulation. So our vegan D, which is a combination of vitamin D2 and vitamin D3, plant-based, and our magnesium complex, which has 3 forms of magnesium, one of them being magnesium that is chelated with glycinate, which is a Dr. Arthur First invention that helps with the absorption. So we have two unique products for vitamin D and for magnesium that will help with people's mental health. And so this is your arsenal of Neolife supplements. There's a lot to choose from, but if you take the targeted approach, gut health, chronic stress, blood sugar, then you'll have what you need. And also, we don't want to forget, we talked about Upbeat earlier today, right? Upbeat increases dopamine by 36%. Upbeat is a great product to have in your arsenal for people that are having mental health issues. And then and also Elevate. Elevate boosts key neurotransmitters. Elevate contains a clinical dose of suntheanine and natural caffeine. It impacts more than 4, but these are 4 main neurotransmitters that Elevate impacts. Acetylcholine for memory and learning, GABA, which helps control anxiety and stress, serotonin, which we need to have happy, calm feelings, and dopamine, which is linked to the feelings of reward and motivation. So I really want to emphasize that our Neolife supplements, when used in a targeted way, will help address the 3 risk factors that we just talked about, having to do with mental health challenges and mental health illnesses. Our Neolife supplements will help people achieve optimal mental health. Thanks.